So, for those of you in the know, you know that there's a new 3DS coming out. It's already out in Japan, but it won't be hitting the United States until next year. And I hope that that gives them time to reflect on a very crucial design mistake. Thankfully, new 3DS titles will be backwards compatible with the 3DS. The only difference is you're not going to have access to some game elements. As I understand it, the um, the upcoming copy of the upcoming port of Zelda Majora's Mask will play just fine on the older hardware, but if you have the newer hardware, you'll be able to get access to some additional in-game bonuses. For those of you who are old enough and you remember the Game Boy Color, you remember they re-released Zelda Link's Awakening and gave it the DX stamp. I don't know why they chose those letters for, obviously it was a port of a Game Boy game in color for the Game Boy Color that was backwards compatible with the prior Game Boy lineup. And the game was fully usable on a Game Boy. The only problem is you wouldn't get access to a secret hidden dungeon that you could get in the Game Boy Color. That's what they're doing, from what I understand, with Majora's Mask for the 3DS, the new 3DS. Um, that's not my gripe, though. My gripe is in the hardware. This is a 3DS XL, as most of you know, and this is the side view of the unit. Now I'm going to turn on magnification so you guys can see here. This little lip here on the side, that is for an SD card slot, because if you want to download your games, the 3DS XL has no internal memory, nor does the regular 3DS. So you have to use an SD card. Well, that's all fine and dandy, because the regular SD cards you can just open the door, like with your fingernail or something, and eject just like you would, with a normal SD card. This is the 3DS, the new 3DS. This is not the XL version, but the XL looks very similar. The only difference is in the larger screens. So you'll notice a couple of design element changes here. We've got the new thumbstick. We've got improved 3D, but myself having monocular vision, I don't care because I won't be able to use it. So for me, other than the control stick, there's really nothing new. Obviously, there are some aesthetic changes, and there's a new processor under the hood, but I personally do not feel it's worth the upgrade, especially after having seen the flaw in the design. Now, what is that? You notice here we've got a spot for our game card. Our power adapter is somewhere along the top. You notice now that there's no writing for an SD card. If we take a look here, here is the front, the back, no SD card. Well, remember I told you that the 3DS had no internal memory. From what I understand, the new 3DS doesn't either. So what are you going to do about memory cards, your SD cards? That. Take a look here for a moment. This is a micro SD card. You notice the battery is fully exposed. Let me go back so you can take a look. Okay, so here's the back of the 3DS on here, all screwed into place, right? Screwed into place. You have to actually unscrew the bottom plate just to get to a micro SD card. I think that that is a very serious design flaw. The only way around it is if the system could take up to 128 gigabytes. I don't know. This is a very subtle upgrade from the regular 3DS. I mean, yes, it's improved, but it's not a total revolution the way the first DS was in the first DS, the DS Lite was in comparison to the first DS. The DSi was more of an extension of the DS Lite, whereas the DS and the DS Lite were totally different. I think that one of two things needs to happen. Either they allow for 128 or even 256 gigabyte capacity cards, which would in turn allow you to put the card in, and that's all she wrote, and perhaps maybe turn this charging port into a data port so you could hook up your 3DS, say, to your computer and download updates. Not get the games off, mind you, because obviously Nintendo wants to keep everything proprietary. Now the rumor is they've patented an emulator for third-party devices, but that's a whole other game show, so I'm not going to get into that. What I'm thinking is go ahead and if Nintendo could probably set up something kind of like a Nintendo version of iTunes, where they can keep you locked in. Now, yes, I know that locked in is not the in thing right now, but I'm trying to see it from their point of view, what would make them want to do this. So, the way I see it is if they had a Nintendo-esque version of iTunes that you could plug your 3DS into your computer and back up to their servers and have it locked in their system, kind of like the way iTunes does now. That way, you would not have to fiddle with a screwdriver every time you wanted to switch out your micro SD memory card. And what's more, micro SD? Now, I'm visually impaired, and those things are really hard to keep track of. But even for people who are fully sighted, a lot of people, they would just get a big, I'm sure that many people out there would get a nice big micro SD card, stick it in their phone and keep it there. Because those things are so small that they could very, very easily be lost. You drop one of those things and you spend forever looking for it. It's like a contact lens. So I'm saying that Nintendo needs to either reverse its decision to go micro SD, especially reverse its decision to have you have to take the back off. And not all of us are handy with a screwdriver. And even for those of us that are, it's just a nuisance if you're out and about and somebody gives you, like something you want to try out and it's on their micro SD card, having to take off the back, I don't know. I honestly do not know. I just think it's a big, big problem. In fact, it is this design decision that has led me away from the new 3DS. But what do you guys think? This is all strictly my opinion. I want to hear yours. What do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.